Shalom, this is Levi Shore. So we're gonna do something completely different today. We're gonna talk about the Star Wars movies. We're gonna talk about the greatness of Luke Skywalker, and we're gonna use Star Wars as a mushal, and we're gonna use it as an analogy. We're gonna see some really amazing concepts in the Torah. So when the first Star Wars movie came out in 1977. I was 9 years old, and yeah, it just like it overwhelmed me as a kid. It blew me away. I was just fascinated with this movie when I saw it, and right, so you couldn't immediately get like a videotape of it. You couldn't get a DVD of it, and so what I had is I had this record album. I don't know if anyone remembers the record album. Some people do, some people don't. They were these big black circles, and you put it on a record player, and it had like all the dialogue from the movie, and I just listened to that again and again until finally you could get a copy of it and see it. So so I'm looking back now, like why did it really affect me? And it's interesting because I looked at it very differently when I was a kid. So Episode 4, The New Hope, the first Star Wars movie. And when I was a kid, like I didn't think Luke Skywalker was really that cool. Like I mean, to me, he was kind of mopey, he was kind of whiny. I just like I didn't like think he was like the big hero back then. Like to me, like Han Solo was really cool. He was like this tough like smuggler, and he was really slick, and he marries Princess Leia in the end, and his big hairy Wookiee friend. He's this really cool ship, the Millennium Falcon. So I think there was definitely an aspect of it was the cool effects. I mean, it was the special effects which were neat, and it was all the fighting and the space and the lasers, and I mean that was definitely a part of it. But I think the thing that affected a lot of people in my generation is that I think Joseph Campbell and George Lucas, they really created a mythology, and I think they created somewhat of a theology for the movie, and I think that really affected people on a deep level. And a lot of it overwhelmed me. I'll talk about it. A lot of it overwhelmed me when I was a kid. But when I look back now, um, I really see that the greatness of Luke Skywalker, that Luke Skywalker, the mitos, the personal characteristics of Luke Skywalker, that he had true greatness. So right, so when I was a kid, like Han Solo seemed like he was really cool, and then there was like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he was like this mystic, and he was dressed in these robes, and he looked like he was right out of the Torah. He had the white beard, and he had this old man that had wisdom, and he knew all these fighting skills. He knew the ways of the Force and all that stuff. So we're not going to go into the theology of Star Wars itself so much today. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll make another shir about it and go more and compare the theology of Star Wars to what the Torah is saying. But right, so like I mean, so the characters like Han Solo and Obi-Wan Kenobi really, I thought I thought of them as more of the heroes and than Luke Skywalker at the time. But when I look back, I can really see the greatness of Luke Skywalker. And so some of his challenges, like as we go on to the first movie, The New Hope, and then Empire Strikes Back, and then finally The Return of the Jedi, we see right he had certain qualities, and then he had certain what we call in Torah chesronot. He had certain deficiencies in his personality, and we all have certain talents. We have our milas, and we have our chesronot. We have our deficiencies. We have things in our character that we have to overcome. So for him, he had kas, he had anger, which is interesting because I never really saw it in his character. When they went back and made episode 1 through 3, you saw more of the anger issue with Anakin Skywalker. But Luke, like I mean, I don't know, maybe it's Mark Hamill. He's like seems like just a more more gentle kind of personality. So I mean, for me, it's harder to see the anger in him. I don't know if they brought out that much so much this anger. And then they said he was impulsive, so right he was in a rush, like he didn't finish like his training. So that was some of the things he had to overcome. But there was definitely greatness that he had, and ultimately he becomes the huge hero at the end of episode, what is it, episode 6, in Return of the Jedi. So right, so there's a scene in Empire Strikes Back, I think, where he's on Dagobah and he's in the cave and he's fighting this spiritual, I don't know, I don't know what you call it. He was fighting this Darth Vader, but really, in a sense, what he was fighting is he was fighting his own Yetzer Hara. He was fighting his own evil impulse. and his fear, and I think that was also part of it, like the fear. They, their thing was that the fear leads people to, there's fear and the anger, and that leads people to what they're calling the dark side. And I think there's some reality to that. If we don't have the bitachon, if we don't have the confidence that Hashem's taking care of us, and even we need a little bit of like our own bitachon that things are going to work out. Like we do, we put in the effort, and then it's going to work out. If we do the right thing, it's going to work out. But in that cave, right, he's fighting this Darth Vader, this projection, some kind of spiritual projection of Darth Vader, but it's really he's fighting himself, and he's fighting his own Yetzer Hara. And at the end, we see when he defeats his own Yetzer Hara, we see like the mask of I think Darth Vader gets cut off, and it's really Luke Skywalker. So he's fighting his own Yetzer Hara. He's fighting his own fears about turning into like an evil person, and so it's really interesting. I mean, so right, these concepts were. I mean, I was very young, and these concepts were really. It was overwhelming. I think right, one of the most shocking things. Like I remember, like in Empire Strikes Back, when Darth Vader says, "Oh, I'm your father," and like I remember me and my friends talking about this, and that was just. It was unheard of. Like bad guys are not good guys' fathers. So in the terms of the Torah, like a tzaddik, the holy, the righteous person doesn't come from from a wicked person. But it's interesting because in real life, you do see this sometimes in real life. You see like really great parents, and sometimes the children, go, unfortunately, given more to a Yetzer Hara and go to the darker side, or the Sitra Achra, the other side, as the Torah calls it, and you see like people come from. I don't know, maybe they came from, what they call the wrong side of the tracks, or a tough neighborhood, and they overcome that, and they become good people. So we do see that there's a reality, but that concept, like a young kid, it like really, and it overwhelmed me. So the amazing thing, what makes Luke so great, what he overcomes, and we talk about this, the power of Teshuvah. And Teshuvah is the, Hashem created these 10 things before he created the world. And one of them was Teshuvah, the ability to return back to Hashem, because we're going to make mistakes. There's chet, avon, there's pesha, there's different ways, like we accidentally do avera. Sometimes we don't know that doing something wasn't avera, it was transgressing what Hashem wanted, or we just get confused, or chas v'shalom, sometimes we willfully say, I want to do this, I don't care that, Hashem doesn't want me to do that. And Hashem created a pathway back, a path to Teshuvah, where first we regret what we did, and and then we say, oh, I'm not going to do this again, and then we say I did that, but I don't want to do it again, and we make a resolution within ourselves to not do this anymore. And Teshuvah has an amazing power that Teshuvah can turn bad back into good. Like if you can overcome the Yetzer Hara, if you can overcome that evil impulse and completely defeat it, you can actually turn bad into good. And that is some of the power of the character of Luke Skywalker. And he goes, when he finds out Darth Vader is his father, the fascinating thing is right now he's tempted to give in to what they're calling the dark side, or the Sitra Achra, or the Yetzer Hara, and give into those evil impulses. And they were offering him temptations of power and kavod, fame, and wealth, and like he would join the empire, and he would go to the dark side, and he could rule with them. So he could it was very simple. He could just follow his father into that path, and he would get all these things of like honor and wealth and power. But the amazing strength of him is that he resisted that. So that itself is what the Torah calls Gavora, a person that can defeat their own desires and the Yetzer Hara. That's a strong person. Not just all the cool fighting techniques, but what really made him great, and it wasn't really such astounding, like the lightsaber battles were cool, but that wasn't how he defeated the Emperor, and that's not how he defeated Darth Vader. But, right, so he resisted the temptation of what they were offering him. But the amazing thing that he did is that he wasn't fighting just to defeat the Emperor, just to defeat the Empire, which he did want to do. He wanted to fight against evil. But the thing that was incredible is that he wanted his father to do teshuvah. He wanted to get he wanted to touch Anakin, the heart of Anakin, and get him back again. And that's the incredible thing that Luke Skywalker did. He wasn't just fighting. He wasn't just fighting against the Emperor. He was fighting to get Anakin Skywalker back. He was fighting for his dad, to get his dad back. He was fighting for his dad to do Teshuvah. And that is the amazing greatness of Luke Skywalker. And that's the power of that character, that he wanted to help his father do Teshuvah, and he was successful. And then by that act, by reaching the heart of his father and getting his father to turn away from evil, then the father, then Darth Vader, or Anakin now, is actually the one that destroyed, the Emperor, that throws Emperor Palpatine into the whatever, the nuclear fusion chamber, whatever it was. But it was almost like this hole going down to Gehenna. It's very reminiscent of Parsha Korach, where the ground opens up and they go right to Gehenna, and it's like this hole going down to Gehenna. And he saves his father from, it's very interesting, he saves his father from Gehenna, and his father does Teshuvah and becomes Anakin again. And then by his father doing Teshuvah, that's actually what saves them all and defeats the Empire. So I don't know, it's interesting just to look at Star Wars. Maybe we'll do a little more of these and talk more about the theology of Star Wars and how that compares to the Torah. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you back again on Sweet Good Torah. Thanks a lot.